Ever since I found him again, he said we'd have a normal fourth. But the first chance we get, he gets himself teleported to who knows where, and we have no idea if he's alive or dead.
You think you got it bad? Having a full-blown existential crisis. The whole reason I exist is to keep Jess on task and the show on schedule. With no Jess and no show, why do I exist?
Didn't you guys say that every 4th of July you guys watch something with Captain America?
And while you told me there are more Captain America movies than the two sacred holiday films, I don't see how they could possibly be any better than the ones with Red Brown.
Funny. I didn't think they could be any worse.
Come on, let's watch it. You know Jess we're here.
He wants us to.
Guys, you're not going to believe this, but I've got an incoming transmission from. That's everywhere and nowhere.
Guys, it's me. You're alive? Will you be back soon? I don't know. I think I'm in some kind of alternate dimension. I tried to go upstairs, but it's just another basement. But I have a change of clothes, and every 6 hours, whatever I want to eat just shows up. But there's one thing I can't get.
Funnel cakes?
Yeah, I don't know how long the signal will last, so let's get started with this special movie starring Ronnie Cox, Ned Beatty.
Oh, sweet, we're doing Deliverance. That's a good movie.
And Matt Salinger. That's right, it's Captain America 1990. If you get back by the end, can we go to the fireworks? I guess. Oh boy, funnel cake, fried chicken. This will be great.
Jess, bad news. My transmission alarm's going off. That means your signal's breaking up.
No, no, no.
Ralph, at least we know he's alive.
All I wanted today was to see the fireworks.
You want fireworks. All you gotta do is tell me if you're naughty or nice.
I think you're getting your holidays mixed over.
Can't you teleport someplace else? I guess not. I'll turn off my optical sensors, divert bandwidth to communications array, that kind of thing.
You guys still there? I put my tricorder down. Our story begins in Italy in 1936 as these kids are hanging around waiting for their friend to finish up his piano recital. His parents are so proud of him that they're tape recording it and everything. Yeah, this is just the sort of opening you'd expect from a movie called Captain America.
You're acting like the secret police don't burst in a second later.
Well, there is that. They grab Schroeder. They want him for his superior intellect. The parents object and get gunned down for their trouble. Cut to the mysterious Fort Lorenzo, where scientists are experimenting on mice using their super soldier serum. The result? One is a genius and the other's insane. They go on a long string of failed attempts to take over the world. But I could be wrong. After all, the end results look like creatures you'd find living in Sigourney Weaver's refrigerator. But the Nazi scientists seem pleased, so it must be all good. I don't speak German or Italian, but I think they're saying it didn't kill the mice, so let's see what it does to him. Science Lady rants like, me at the end of a movie. Again, my translation is a bit sketchy, but I think she's saying we're the Axis powers and this is barbaric even for us. They shoot at her and she flees. The Nazi scientist says, "Any other objections?" "Okay then, let's rock and roll." The kid screams and Science Lady can hear him from outside the castle. Cut to 7 years later at the White House. This military guy is briefing FDR. He says this Dr. Vasily person has created a formula that will turn a 4F person into a superhuman. I think we should make a whole squadron of them. After all, the Germans already have one. Yeah, their test subject wound up hideously deformed, but we've taken time to fix the flaws. We even have this guy, Steve Rogers, who was willing to put his own well being on the line for the good of the country. We just need your John Hancock to authorize it. Cut to Redondo, California, at one of the producer's brother's house. There's this going away party going on. Steve's mom hands him a locket and says, "Your father gave me this before he left for the war. I want you to have it for good luck." Steve says, "Wait, didn't Dad die in World War I?" His mom says, "Yeah, and if you follow in his footsteps, I'll kill you." The military guys show up to the house. Steve says, "I can't go without saying bye to Bernice." So he goes next door and she's not there. So he runs down to the beach, and there she is. He asks, "Why did you leave?" She says, "Because I don't want you to go." Steve says, "I don't want to go either, but it needs to be done." They kiss, and suddenly she's okay with it. He must have eaten a lot of onions. It's the only way I can explain it. They head back to the party. Bernice promises to wait as long as it takes. Then Steve gets into a car with Dr. Vasily, the science lady from before, and leaves. A week later at the El Slizo Cafe, these military guys walk in and ask the waitress about the pot roast. She grabs the gun under the counter before telling them. Since neither of the guys look like Charlie Day, I assume that the diner is a cover for some sort of secret base. Yup, called it. They go down to the basement. They find these military top brass and scientists gathered around a glass chamber where Steve is being prepped for the electric chair.
I think he's getting the super soldier serum and a blast of Vita Rays.
Eh, you're probably right. Dr. Vasily says we have other candidates for this. You can back out anytime you like. Steve says, well, it's either this or appear in Revenge of the Nerds 3. I'll take my chances. The military guy says if we don't kill him, we could have the best damn military on the planet. The science guy says, I disagree. This guy wasn't chosen just for his physical prowess. He got intelligence and moral tests. That's what makes our superior man better than their superior man. Dr. Vasily throws the switch. The lights start blinking, they run Steve through a Van de Graaff generator. The base blows a fuse. When the lights come back on, they ask, is he alright? Dr. Vasily says, our scrawny little guy is ready to fight in an MMA tournament. The other scientist says, congratulations. I'd like to introduce you to our liaison from FDR's office, who is totally not a Nazi spy. They shake hands and he shoots her. Then he flees, but he doesn't get too far. Steve beats the living fish out of him before throwing him into the generator, creating a Kentucky Fried Nazi. Steve checks on Vasily and she dies, but not before giving him that whole "don't think this lets you off the hook for being a hero" speech. Steve collapses from exhaustion. He wakes up in a military hospital. The military guy says, "We need him ready to go in 2 days." The doctor says he's lucky to be alive. The military guy says the Germans have a new super missile that'll be ready to launch by Friday afternoon. He's the only one capable of stopping it. The doctor says, "Sorry, there's nothing I can do." Steve wakes up and says, "I'm only feeling about 70% right now, but that means I have the strength of 7 men. We'll just have to hope that's enough." They board a model plane and head to the front. The military guy says, "I'm sorry we couldn't train you better with that shield, or that your fireproof outfit isn't camo. Don't get me wrong, the red, white, and blue is a great propaganda weapon, but useful in combat, it is not." Captain America asks, "When can I expect more super soldier help?" The military guy says, "About that. Dr. Vaselli didn't exactly keep notes, so nobody knows how to make more super soldiers. Or that shield. What I'm saying is, you're on your own." They throw a Captain America action figure and a parachute out the window and call it a day. Not wanting to spend money replicating World War II, he lands outside a Hydra base. He throws his shield and takes out most of the guards. Red Skull somehow knows it's him without bothering to check. So he decides, I should probably start the countdown on that super missile. Captain America makes his way through the complex beating up Nazis. He sees the missile and Red Skull and thinks to himself, "What the fuck have I gotten myself into?" He throws his shield at the Red Skull and it turns into a game of frisbee. The kind where the disc becomes embedded in the pavement. Then we get a good old-fashioned brawl. Red Skull goes on about his superiority and Cap gets his ass kicked. When he comes to, he's tied to the missile. Red Skull says, for the sake of irony, "I'm going to send you and the missile's payload to the White House. Do you think I could have FDR's job when the war is over?" Captain America says, "No. Section 1, Article 2 of the US Constitution states," Red Skull says, "Never mind. I'll just conquer your country. No biggie." The missile is about to launch. The Red Skull was ridiculously close to Captain America while he was loading, so Cap grabs his hand to try to prevent the countdown, but it's too late. So what does Red Skull do? He chops his own fucking hand off, and the missile goes flying. Then, for some reason, we cut to this family in Washington, D.C. The mom says to her son, "Go back to bed. It's 4 a.m. Wait a minute, it's 4 a.m. in Washington, D.C. Why is it still nighttime in Europe? It should be 9 or 10 a.m. Oops. Anyway, the kid sneaks outside with his father's camera. He takes pictures of the White House. He sees Cap kicking the missile. The guidance system breaks and the missile goes flying to Alaska. It lands in a lake without exploding. For decades, Russell Crowe and his friends play ice hockey over it without even knowing it's there. Cut to Springfield, Ohio, where the boy is telling his friend what he saw. He wants him to believe him. Since there's a photo, he does. Because it's not like photo doctoring didn't exist back then. We get a montage of newspapers and radio broadcasts as the decades pass. It's got all the cliches. Elvis and the Korean War for the 50s, Kennedy and the moon landing for the 60s, Vietnam and Watergate for the 70s, Reagan for the 80s. Some guy named Tom Kimball gets elected in the 90s. He's forming some sort of worldwide environmental conference. He says, yeah, some of these new environmental policies are going to cost jobs, but if we don't, everything on Earth will be dead in a century or two. Don't worry, I want to train people for new types of jobs. That's that. He goes back to the Oval Office. His general says these new environmental policies suck. Kimball says, kinda, but it's what the people need. Get in line or get lost. The general says, okay, whatever. In Rome, the Red Skull is holding a conference of his own, one with all the world's richest CEOs. Well, all the ones who aren't Jewish anyway. He's not even bothering to hide the former Nazi thing. In fact, he's bragging about it. They say Kimmel's environmental stuff has to be stopped. We should kill him. The Red Skull says that would be a stupid idea. Did you learn nothing from when we orchestrated the assassinations of the Kennedys or MLK? All that did was create a martyr. They ask, what do you suggest we do? The Red Skull says, get this, mind control chips. We get one in him and we can make him do anything we want. One of the executives asks, even star in Cop Rock? Meanwhile, in Alaska, these hikers are walking along and see something trapped in the ice. Thinking it might be Brendan Fraser, they get equipment to dig it out. They take it to a hangar. They all agree to take turns guarding it until the authorities can show up. But Captain America breaks out of the ice, walks off without saying a word. But one guy manages to get a photo. The next morning, Captain Jellicoe, or President Kimball, is reading the weekly world news. He sees a photo of Captain America. He reaches into his wallet, revealing a photo taken decades before. He calls his old buddy Sam, who now works for the CIA. He says, do you remember that superhero I took a photo of as a kid? Well, we found him. Sam says, that's great. I'm still working that whole Red Skull thing, and I think he could be a big help. In Rome, Red Skull tells his driver, do you think you can get me Kimball's itinerary for his visit? Maybe some dirt on his security staff? Oh, and a crystal Pepsi. He takes a quick glance at the day's paper and sees a photo of Captain America. He says, not that guy. He turns to his daughter and says, it looks like this one's your job. Meanwhile, Captain America has walked across all of Alaska and into the Canadian wilderness. He notices these 3 helicopters following him. They drop off these goons on motorcycles to search for him. Do you know who else is out searching for Cap? Sergeant Stan Bolander of the Baltimore City Homicide Division. The motorcycle goons are pursuing him and, well, how do I describe this? It's a bit like the speeder bike chase from Return of the Jedi if Leia was chasing Forrest Gump on his cross-country walk, and the cinematography was absolute. Captain America gets sick of all the nonsense and super frisbees them. They start shooting at him. Ned Beatty drives up and says, come with me if you want to live. So Cap hops in the car. Otis asks, who were those guys? Cap says, Nazis, duh. Bolander says, seems like a bit of a stretch for 1992. Cap says, I saw this movie once where the Germans tried the same thing. Fake newspapers, fake radio broadcasts. Ned Beatty says, I work for the president. He told me to find you. He said it was an end of the world situation involving the Red Skull. You know, superhero stuff. Cap says, Whatever. Sam says if I was a Nazi spy, why would I be asking for your help taking down Red Skull? Cap says, Olander goes on and on with his Red Skull runs the Illuminati bullshit. Cap is about to buy it when he notices a few small details. One being a Sony radio that says Made in Japan on it, and the fact that they're driving a Volkswagen, which creates a minor continuity error.
Also,
VW only had two types of pickup trucks back then, the Taro and the Caddy. The Taro was never sold in North America, period. The Caddy hadn't been sold in North America since 1984, so it's unlikely the car rental agency would have one.
it's not like Menahem Golan would shoot a movie in Yugoslavia where the Taro was huge and pretend it was Canada.
Of course not. Steve says, I'd like to get out now. Ned Beatty asks why. Cap says, I get carsick. So they get out and Steve walks away. Sam tries to follow him, but Steve runs back and steals the truck, driving as far away as he can. Since he forgot to steal Ned Beatty's wallet, he runs out of gas and has to walk to a warehouse. But at least he finds a truck full of Molson beer headed to California. He sneaks into the cargo hold and takes a nap. We get a crappy love song as he dreams of Bernice. It continues playing as he makes his way to the beach. Beyond all logic, the board that he and Bernice carved their names into is still there on the pier 50 years later. We get another montage as Steve tries to deal with the culture shock, but not really. He goes back to his old neighborhood and sees this woman going toward Bernice's house. He runs to greet her and she slaps him. This old woman comes out of the house with her husband. She recognizes him immediately, and so does he. Neither of them want to admit it's true, but they know it is. They embrace and then go have dinner. The Red Skull gets a call in Italy, which, everyone knows is in the same time zone as LA. His agent says, sorry, we lost the trail somewhere near that beer warehouse. Don't worry, we have a plan. We're gonna go to his old neighborhood. Only we have one small problem. We don't know who Captain America is. Red Skull's daughter says, maybe you should ask Ned Beatty. If anyone knows, it'd be him. Red Skull says, I don't give two shits what you think. You're the one who let him get away. Red Skull throws her out and... I think we should contact the Archbishop of the Delmarva Peninsula before we do that again.
You mean the Chesapeake Bay monster? You really think you can find him in 20 minutes?
I hate to interrupt, but we lost Jess's signal again. One of you is going to have to take over the review.
Not it.
No problem, my exhausted but exalted elvish consort. I would gladly take over the review if...
I told you 20 minutes.
You take Gizmo for a walk.
Damn it.
Where were we? Oh, yes. He remembers Supervillain Code Rule 4. If your henchman has a good idea, listen to it. He puts Otis under electronic surveillance. It turns out Sam has made it back to his conspiracy den. He's dug up the Project Rebirth files. Now he does know everything about Captain America. As soon as he calls the president to tell him Cap has gone to LA, so has Red Skull. Only one of them hires a professional hit squad. And it's not the White House. Meanwhile, Steve has gone to Bernice's daughter Sharon's place to watch her collection of History Channel documentaries. He wants to learn about everything he missed while he was away. Over at Bernice's house, Ned Beatty comes to the door. He asks to speak to Captain America. Bernice tells him to leave or she'll call the authorities. Before he can give her the whole I am the authorities routine, the Skull's Goon Squad shows up and tasers them. After watching the videos, Steve realizes everything Otis told him was true. He starts thinking the Red Skull is still alive. But if he hadn't been up every horrible thing that happened from 1941 to 1990 could have been stopped. But before he can wallow in self-pity, the police call them. They arrive in time to see Sharon's dad and Bolander being taken away in ambulances. Ned Beatty tells Steve, "Do your Captain America thing. If I don't make it, give this decoder ring back to the president for me." Bernice wants to know where her mom is, and well, things don't go too well. Thus, Steve learns that with great power must come great responsibility. They visit Bernice's dad in the hospital when they catch the news on TV. Unnamed terrorists are holding the president hostage. Cap says, "Yup, those guys. And the people who attacked your folks? Obviously the same group. I guess I gotta go kick some ass now." The angry general guy on TV says he has no idea who is responsible, but assures the public everything will be fine by morning. Steve wants to go back to the diner where Captain America was created. In spite of being told specifically that the Sally kept no notes, he thinks she did. If they exist, that's where they would be. But it's been turned into one of those awful retro 50s places that were big in the 80s. The secret entrance is now the ladies' room. That doesn't stop Steve from going Kool-Aid Man on the wall to find it. No sooner does he start when the bad guys show up. They make it to the lab. It takes him 2 seconds to find the diary. They have just enough time to hide before the bad guys come. They manage to sneak right past most of the guards. These guys aren't complete idiots. They left one guy behind to separate them and grab Sharon. The goons start firing. They realize Sharon has the book, so some of them begin to flee. But Steve finds a prototype shield on the wall. He begins taking them down one by one. Finally, there is one guy left. The guy who took Sharon. We get a fight in the Golden Globus signature style. A poorly choreographed battle in the dark, so you can't see where the Cap beats the stuffing out of him. He says, "Tell me where the Red Skull is, or I'll teach you about American history the way I learned about it this afternoon. We didn't start the fire on constant repeat. Good luck getting that out of your head? The guy tells him what little he knows. It must not have been enough, because Steve throws him down the garbage chute.
I wish we'd done that to this DVD.
You and me both. The garbage chute. I wish I could have done that to this DVD. You're back. What happened? I I went to the bathroom. Yeah, that's it. No secret trip to the future to add it into the post credits. No siree.
Right.
Hey, traveling between dimensions fixed my shirt. Anyway, Steve grabbed Sharon and the book. They head upstairs. The few remaining patrons scream, but they don't do anything to stop them. They drive up into the hills. Sharon says, "Here's what Vasily says about the Red Skull." She doesn't know who he was, but she did know that he grew up in a piss poor town in Italy. Hey, if we go there, maybe someone will know. In Rome, the president is waking up. Red Skull says, "While you were unconscious, we wired you for mind control. We know you're familiar with the technology. You used it on Robocop. In 24 hours, we will be in complete control." The president says, "No, you won't. I have a secret transmitter." Red Skull says, "You mean the one we found in your molar?" "Yeah, we kinda took care of that. See you tomorrow." While the Red Skull has his back turned, President Badass grabs a vial of chemicals. Steve and Sharon make it to Rome. She looks at the map and says, "If we haul ass, we can get there in no time." Steve says, "I'm getting car sick." They get out and, well, she's no smarter than Ned Beatty. In the Red Skull's castle, the president is in his cell. He drips some acid on the bars. It eats away at the hinges. He can now get out whenever he feels like. He just has to bide his time. Steve is driving around. He finds the villa that Kid Red Skull came from. Unfortunately, he has trouble finding anyone who speaks English. Lucky for him, Sharon shows up and she speaks Italian. The homeowners invite her in. They say the people who owned the place back then are dead. But we do have some of their stuff in the attic. The only thing of value is the tape recorder. They take it to a fix-it shop. The guy says, "I haven't seen anything like this in decades, but I can try to jerry-rig something." Steve says, "Cool, I'll give you $50. They get it working, but all they find on the tape is the recital and the murders. Steve and Sharon have a nice, quiet argument in the courtyard. These women walk up and bump into Sharon before taking the table across from them. The look in Sharon's eyes says it all. "Aren't those the ones who killed my mom?" The goofy grin on Steve's face seems to say, "Nah." He shoves Sharon to the ground right as the bullets start flying. He hoists the table up and uses it as a shield. Then they flee. A car starts chasing them. Who does the driver think he is? Jason Bourne? They rescue a kid from the middle of the street. This only gives the goon the opportunity to switch to a motorcycle, which is a much better vehicle for alleyway combat driving. Steve remembers, "Hey, I packed my shield." Then he takes out the biker. He pays a kid about $1,000 for a 10-speed bike. It's perfect for their getaway. Or it would be if it had brakes. The chase only ends when they crash into the water. The good news is, Red Skull's daughter thinks they're dead. Even better news, she drops her purse. When our heroes surface, they find it. It includes her passport. They have her real address, and it's only a 50-mile drive. Steve says when we get there, maybe you should hang back. I don't want you getting hurt. Sharon is about to complain when we get something that's a hallmark of Captain America movies. Really slow car chases. This one makes anything from the Red Brown movies seem energetic. She changes her tune when she sees all the goons. She shoves them out of the car and says, "Bye, good luck storming the castle." She drives off but gets maybe a mile and a half away before the goons grab her. Steve turns around and finds her necklace in the middle of the road. Then he goes back to his original plan. They throw her into a cell. They tell her, if you try to escape, you're going to wind up like your mother. The Red Skull's daughter takes the tape recorder with the Red Skull recordings on it. She listens to it and finds out exactly what happened to her grandparents. Now she feels bad about collaborating. Not guilty exactly, but bad. Meanwhile, the Mad Doctor is prepping the president for his procedure. He tells the Red Skull there's a small problem we hadn't foreseen. The Red Skull asks, how long will it take to fix? The doctor says, if you want it to work, decades. If you just want it done, 20 minutes? The Red Skull says, make it 15. I think the American people would really benefit from their remote controlled president. Kimball isn't too keen on the idea. Neither is Sharon, who overhears through a hole in the floor. Do you remember the anti-environmental military guy? He's there and he's working for Red Skull. He asks, do you want me to frame the Russians for the whole terrorist thing? Red Skull says, I don't know. Do you think people will buy it? The general says, this is 1990. If they'll believe slap bracelets are cool, they'll buy anything. Steve approaches the castle. The movie almost has enough money left in the budget to remember it's a superhero movie again. So he decides to change clothes. You think I'm joking about that, but the very next shot is Steve climbing a wall, and you can see the suit in all its glory, falling apart at the seams. The president escapes his cell. He makes a hell of a lot of noise and hides next to the bookcase. The guards don't even realize he's not there until they unlock a door with no hinges. He runs like hell and makes it all the way outside. It kind of makes Cap climbing the wall to come to the rescue scene pretty fucking useless. Oh no, wait. Red Skull and his goons trap Kimball on the roof. The president says, you're not gonna shoot me. Red Skull says, oh, why not? Kimball says, because without me, your entire plan falls apart. Red Skull says, you're right. Kimball jumps off the roof and says, you lose, motherfucker. Red Skull screams and admits defeat. Of course, he doesn't know that Cap has grabbed the president and swung into a window 3 stories down. Being the polite guy that he is, Cap introduces himself. The president says we've met. Cap says, I'm not exactly sure how. The president takes out his wallet and shows him the photo. Cap says, crap, you were the kid? Look, that wasn't exactly my best day. The president says, then I'd hate to be the Red Skull on your best. Let's go out there and kick some ass. At that point, it becomes an escort mission. Well, if the person you're escorting could take it down Goon's radio, change the frequency, and call it a goddamn missile strike. Kimball says, I wish Sam could see this, he wouldn't believe it. Cap says, about that? He's kinda dead, but he told me to give you this. He hands him the decoder ring. The POTUS's eyes fill with such rage. Now he has even more reason to kick not quite Nazi ass than Cap does. They run into General Kolchak the Night Stalker. He says, "What you saw back there? Me talking to Red Skull? Total false flag. I'm undercover." Kimball says, "Do you really expect me to believe that? How dumb do you think I am?" The general says, dumber than a bowl of oatmeal, smarter than Stephen Baldwin.
This movie is set in 1993, right?
Uh-huh.
If he were that dumb, he'd have to wait 24 years to be elected.
Anyway, Cap makes it to the courtyard. The Red Skull says, "I don't know how you're still alive or why you haven't aged today, but it doesn't matter. You were a fuck up 50 years ago, and you're a fuck up today." Cap says, "Can we just get to the climactic fight scene already? It's 90 degrees out, and this suit is padded to the point where I'm baking inside." Super Ronnie Cox shows up. He's got the gun that he took off the general after he beat the shit out of him. One of the goons shoots him in the shoulder. Cap tosses his shield at the guy. The president says, "I'm fine. I'll take out the guards. You take out the guy in the recycled Skeletor costume." Cap nods. Sharon makes quick work of the Skull's daughter and her all-female hit squad before she hightails it out of there. Too bad the tide is turning on the president and Cap. The last goon turns out to be ex-Italian Special Forces. Plus, the Red Skull still has his powers. Yes, he's pushing 60 years old and isn't as strong as he used to be, but since he knows what the fuck he's doing, he doesn't have to be. The president finds the shield and beats the goon to death with it. Cap is in a bind, and the Red Skull goes for a gun. The president thinks to himself, as cool as this would look on my shelf, Steve could really use it right now. So he throws it to him. Cap grabs it right as the Red Skull empties an entire clip of his machine gun into him. He misses every single shot. Steve tosses his shield at him. He misses, but it makes it much more difficult for Red Skull to reload. They go back and forth like this for 5 minutes, which seems like 25. Skullgirl catches up to Sharon. She forgets that Sharon is the one with the gun. She's about to end Sin for what she did to her mom. The Skull gets the hell out of there. Hey, he's got a piano on his roof. But I still have no idea what he's got planned. My first thought was, it's the early 90s, he's got a craterous face. It's for his night job as the Mac Tonight mascot. Red Skull pulls a pocket watch out of the piano. He says, "Plan B. I set off my mini nuke. Yeah, I won't get to be president, but all of Europe will be uninhabitable for at least a century. There's nothing you can do about it." Cap throws his shield and says, "How's this for nothing?" That would be a great line if he didn't fumble the shot. Skullgirl pounces Sharon. She gets hurt. Cap plays the tape recorder. It causes Red Skull to have a mild PTSD flashback. It gives Steve all the time he needs to set up one last toss of his shield. It knocks Red Skull off the roof of the castle and into the water hundreds of feet below. They luck out. The controls are a lot like a cell phone. Once they hit the water, the trigger mechanism doesn't work. The president shows up. He says, "Sorry it took so long. The NATO boys had to finish rounding up the goons. Don't worry, they packed up my shoulder. I'm good." Sharon puts her arms around Cap and says, I know it's weird, but I think I want my mom's sloppy seconds. We cut to a press conference about the successful environmental treaty. The president makes sure to thank the person responsible for ending all environmental concerns way back in 1990, Captain America. The biggest misconception about this movie was that it was made to cash in on Batman. While it's true production began shortly after the release of the trailer for Tim Burton's Batman, it had been in development hell for about a decade at this point. Universal started developing it simply to hold on to their Marvel TV and movie rights. They lost interest and sold them to the Cannon Group. Cannon went bankrupt and gave them to Menahem Golan. Golan wanted Captain America to be a big summer blockbuster. I remember seeing the poster at my local theater in late 1989, early 1990. The movie never came out. Not in the US anyway. It did get a few screenings in Thailand because contractually they had to release it somewhere. So what went wrong? Maybe it was Golan looking at the script his first writer brought him that was filled with Kirby-esque set pieces and saying, "Now, we don't have the money for this. Do a generic action movie with funny pajamas." That might have been it. Or maybe it was all the investors from Golan's home country of Israel saying, maybe not make the bad guy a Nazi. That might have had something to do with it. Or maybe it was getting Matt Salinger and the guy who was the original voice of Jasper Jowls from Chuck E. Cheese instead of, I don't know, real actors. Now that I think about it, being a recluse must run in the Salinger family. J.D. Salinger wrote Catcher in the Rye, then became disenchanted with fame and ran off into the woods somewhere. His son Matt became a recluse after making this movie.
IMDb says he has 39 movie and TV credits after this movie was made.
How many of those were the lead role? Right. Do you know what really kills me about this movie? It cost about $3 million. That might seem cheap if you don't take into account that it was shot almost entirely in Yugoslavia. Not only that, it isn't even as good as two TV movies from 1979 that had a combined budget of $300,000. No wonder Marvel tried to bury it. This movie isn't just bad. It got me pissed off to the point where I don't want to review another movie until October. I'm out of here.
But what about explaining where you were?
Fine. Start the credits and I'll upload my censor logs, but you gotta make sure Xylo and Ralph don't see them. How long until we have to leave for the fireworks? About 45 minutes. Why do you ask? I was going to help Xylo with something and wanted to know when to be back.
It's okay. We'll have plenty of time.
Really?
Of course. Maybe, okay, definitely not. We better go.
What's this mean? Achievement 1 holiday special.
Whoa, that guy was my best friend? How could I forget that?
What guy?
You'll understand in a minute. Where am I? What's going on?
You're in an unstable pocket of time. Soon the entire timeline's going to be like this.
Don't you mean the timeline will have always looked like this?
That's the Jess I remember. I don't expect you to understand this. You won't get the timeline restored until you start earning badges.
Huh?
The moment you entered Limbo, you should have received a list of 18 tasks.
You mean this? I thought it was a napkin from Jersey Mike's.
Read it. You'll see a list of things you have to review next season.
It says 3 holiday specials, 3 comic booky things, 3 long advertisements, 3 things set in the past, 3 things set in the future, and 3 bits of animation. But one of them's gotta be... The Flintstones?
Hey, I don't make the rules, I just enforce them.
After each group of 3, there shall be a reckoning? What the f does that mean?
I'll explain that later. Now, before you ask, you're billing it as a special episode, so it goes on the holiday counter. It is not a 2-for-1 special.
Do you at least have some sort of interdimensional Uber so I can get a ride home?
Already on it. She'll help you on your mission from time to time.
Whee! Wow. Mushroom. Now, hey, Uncle Matt and Uncle Jess. You look younger and fatter than you did at breakfast.
Susie, what did I tell you about giving him future knowledge?
That it's bad because it could cause 2 Mallards and Puras?
I think you mean a temporal paradox.
Whatever. Okay. Mushroom. Let's see if we can send them back. What are the magic words? Abracapocus. No, that's not it. Hocus cadabra. Wait, I remember.
If you liked this video, please hit like and subscribe. To see this channel grow and get your name on the credits, visit patreon.com/ParityErrorFilms and become a patron today!